Hey everybody, it's Cheryl, lead Off Leash K9 Training, and I just started a live broadcast a minute ago, but I turned it off by accident, trying to show you my sidekick down here, Tioga, who is sleeping soundly after Adventure Dog Day Camp, which was a great day. Hope you guys are doing well. I received quite a few questions this week via email and some YouTube questions, so I'm going to jump right on into those. Let's see. Somebody had asked me, somebody asked me if they bring their dog or send their dog to me for a board and train, and a highly aggressive dog. It's been in many dog fights. It's bitten a few humans. It's actually been attached to a human where the owner had to sort of pry the dog off. And I said, yep, they have to come here. She was a little nervous about the idea of her dog having to wear an e-collar. So she said the dog had some neck sensitivities, and it's all the same dog here. And she said, I'm worried about, we've worked through this for a couple of years now. The dog's about 3 or 4, and I'm really worried about the neck sensitivity and the e-collar. And to be honest, I have worked with a few dogs, and I've reached out to my network of balanced dog trainer colleagues, and I asked, has anybody ever seen a neck issue sensitivity thing get worse with an e-collar? And I think I got 15 replies from different dog trainers that have worked with dogs with neck issues or sensitivities, and the e-collar's been an amazing tool because it doesn't put any physical stress on the neck. None. It's just muscle stimulation. And it's actually a TENS unit, which is used in rehabilitation and physical therapy. So if you've ever been in physical therapy and you know what a TENS unit is, that's what an e-collar is. So they actually use it for rehabilitating muscle injuries and or skeletal injuries, trying to get the muscles to fire again. So to answer that sensitivity question, no, you're not going to get a dog that already has neck issues worsened by the e-collar. If anything, you're going to be able to relieve that dog's neck of undue stress from a flat collar, a prong collar, a choke chain, even like a halty. It's holding the face, and it's going to be manipulating the neck and head. And so anything with a physical pull on it would do more damage or could do more damage, but an e-collar, no. So that's the neck sensitivity question, which came from the same person that asked about if my dog comes for a board and train, are they going to have to use an e-collar? And the answer is yes, because that dog has not had a lot of corrections in its life. It's gotten away with some nasty behavior, and it actually needs to be corrected. It needs somebody to say, stop it. You can't do that anymore. There are some people out there that might think correcting a dog is not nice. It's not fair. It's not humane. But if you ask me and a lot of other balanced dog trainers and people that have dogs that have been rehabilitated from aggression or are still working through it, they praise an e-collar because it's given them a tool to use that doesn't have to get them involved, and it actually can correct the dog and make the dog not want to do a behavior again. So anybody out there that thinks it's a horrible tool, what's worse? Putting the dog to sleep or giving it a few high corrections? I think most people I know, at least I think everybody I know that's ever dealt with it or has a dog like that, they're thankful that the e-collar exists. So I probably won't get this client, and I'm totally fine with it. I want people that are on board with the training style. I've referred her to other people in Durango that don't use aversive tools, and I wish her well, and I hope it works out. But if any dog comes to me for aggression, it's because, they need to be on an e-collar because that's what they need. They need to be told, no, you can't do that anymore. And they work. So that is from, I don't need to say who it's from. We're not going to go there. So another question I got, this was in regards to Jack, who's been with me the past 2 weeks. He went home today. I had a session with his owner, so stay tuned to that. Hey Meg, nice to see you. And she did it. The owner did a great job with Jack, an amazing job with Jack. I'm excited about them with this new path on their life. But one person asked, what number do you mostly use on Jack on the e-collar? And this is a good question, because people that aren't familiar with e-collars, I think they think it might be a static thing, like one dog, or a dog works at a certain number, and it's not the case. And so a lot of e-collars, I highly recommend either the ET300 from e-collar technologies or a Dogtra. And if you have a high level kind of heady dog that takes a lot to distract him, get the Boss. And then there's even a double Boss. So I like e-collar technologies the best. But all these collars have a vibration function, and some people ask, can they use a vibration function? And it's like, no, I don't like the vibration function because it's static. So going back to this question, Jack goes from anywhere between a 5 to probably, he's been up high in the 80s for growling at people, 90s for growling at people. So just like, okay, I have a good example of a way to describe it to people. If we're in a quiet space, a library, a church or something, and I'm with you and I decide we should go, I might just sort of tap you on the shoulder and say, whisper in your ear, hey, we should go, whisper. And you'll hear me. Oh, okay, let's go. Now, if you and I are in a Las Vegas nightclub, just rocking out, and I try to tap you and say, you're just going to be, dancing away with the funk music going on. You're not going to hear a word I say. So I'm going to have to kind of grab you and be like, hey, we should go. Let's go. I'm not doing anything mean to you. I'm just getting your attention. So the distraction in the quiet space of a library versus the distractions in the Las Vegas nightclub are way different. So therefore, my tone or my intensity to talk to you and to get your attention is going to do this as well. So it needs to match that distraction. And for a dog, actually, if it's recalling, if it's taken off towards an animal or something, you have to go one up from that distraction. So you're not just trying to say, hey, you're trying to override that crazy distraction that's going on. So, I might be at a 5 with Jack in the house and then just opening my front door. He might be at a 5 in the house and I open the front door and a bobcat runs by. He's going to be at an 80 in his mind in a heartbeat. And so I need to respond with an e-collar 80 or 85, if that makes sense. So just like the distraction, just drive your car around and next time you're walking, look at how you're distracted and your mind goes up and down with different distractions. The phone rings. There's a text message, beep, beep, beep. There's a car braking in front of you. Oh, now you're at a stoplight, and nothing's happening and you're playing with the radio. And now there's a cop, so all the distractions around you are going up and down. So therefore your mind is going up and down. And if you're the dog, to get your attention, that number needs to go up. So the e-collar needs to go up and down. So I hope that makes sense to answer that question. Let's see. Somebody else asked me, how did I get into dog training? I have always been into dogs. I've grown up with dogs, had family dogs, family pets, and we always just had really good dogs. My husband's coming home, so my dog is probably going to bark here in a minute. He's been out rock climbing in the desert in Moab, having a nice weekend with some friends. Anyway, so growing up, I've always been around family dogs, and we always had really good dogs. My parents must have been good dog trainers without knowing it. The dogs never left the yard. They never got aggressive with anybody. They were just good dogs. They went lots of places with us. And then when I was an adult and I got my first dog, that was in the late 90s, I found this book. Actually, I put it, and a lot of people know of it. It's the Monks of New Skeet. The Art of Raising a Puppy. And this is an old edition. I mean, I've had this one. You could see all these watermarks and stuff in it. I've had this since my other dog that is no longer with us passed away. I don't even know how I got turned on to it, to be honest. I don't remember. But I got that book and I read it, and he was 12 weeks when I got him, and I called it doggy school. We just had doggy school every day. In the morning we'd go for a little walk on a leash and we'd do little sits and downs, and I was really into it. I didn't do more than maybe an hour a day, but I did a lot. He was in a crate because that's what I read in the book, get the crate. So this is in the late 90s, and my dog was amazing. He just went, I lived out of my car for a while. I worked for Outward Bound for a long time. By choice, I lived out of my car, and he went everywhere with me. So it was an amazing experience to have that. And then I just started working. Hey, shh, hi. Hey, be quiet. Sorry. Go release. Go say hi. It's not how you should let your dog go when they're barking. You should make them relax on place. Anyway, back to how I got to be a dog trainer. So after that happened, and I moved to Durango, and even before that, when I was in the Bay Area and in Leadville and Boulder, Colorado, I just had friends asking me, help me with my dog. It's got some issues. So a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago or something, a friend of mine was trying to integrate a dog and a roommate's dog into her house because she was going to be moving into my friend's house, and this other dog was aggressive. So I got together and I was working with this dog, and I had the other dog come up from behind, kind of holding leashes, and didn't let them look face to face. And my friend afterwards, after like 10 minutes and the dogs are fine, my friend says, oh my gosh, Cheryl, you should be doing this. You should be doing this. And I just never really thought much about it. I didn't really look into it. And how do you become a dog trainer? And so I just kept helping friends and family, mostly with reactive and aggressive dogs. Tyler, come down. And I loved it. I loved it then. It just is something I would do. I would go to dog parties. I would go to dog parties. No, I'd go to barbecues or camping. We'd go out in the desert camping, or in Boulder. I was friends with a lot of people that had dogs, and there was just dog parties everywhere. They really were dog parties more than barbecues. And I was just always watching the dogs. And there was one particular Chesapeake Bay Retriever in Boulder, my friend Cameron had. His name was Hobbs. And everybody said, Hobbs is such a a-hole. He's such a mean dog. But when I had him, he wasn't. I was nannying for some families, and they're like, don't let Hobbs near kids. And Hobbs was amazing with these kids. And then some unfortunate events happened, and he ended up living with this other friend. And he just never quite got back to being that, at least the dog I knew that you could control, that just was looking for leadership. So it was just like an eye-opening for me. And so finally I decided I'm going to make some work out of this. And that's how I got into dog training. And, another thing too, is when I was watching Caesar, which is kind of funny, right? He came on and I was like, oh my gosh, I was obsessed. But I was like, this is what I've been doing my whole life. Not quite the same and not as well. I wasn't raised around big packs of dogs with a grandfather that knew what he was doing. But I just remember thinking, this is what I've been doing with my dogs. Yay for me. Like, I gave myself a pat on the back. I'm like, this is what I've been doing. And I happen to actually like balanced training. There's two types of training. There's balanced training, and there's also pure positive training. Balanced training uses yeses and nos. Yeses are rewards. Nos are punishments or corrections. Pure positive trainers only use rewards. And if that works, awesome. The more power to you. If you can get your dog to do everything 100% off leash reliable with treats, it's awesome. And it's not to say it can't be done. It just takes a lot longer. And my other dog, Logan, I just couldn't get that last 5%. When I was off leash skiing or biking, I didn't have a leash on him. I didn't have a leash. I wasn't carrying a T-bone steak, and he wanted to chase my tire or chase my skis, and I couldn't get him to stop. So I always said, next time I get a dog and Tioga's it, I'm getting an e-collar, and I've learned how to use it, and they are amazing because they're 100% reliable now. My dog is 100% reliable, whereas Logan went to like 95%. But I spent a lot of time with him too, which I spent a lot of time with Tioga, but I just have a family now as well. So it was just interesting watching Caesar and thinking, wow, that's what I've been doing too. And there was kind of a joke when my daughter was about 2 that I was having an affair with Caesar on the couch because I would Netflix him like, I don't know, watch six episodes in a sitting on the couch with the remote, just like watching one after the other. And I'd rewind and go back and I'd watch the little dog behaviors as they were coming up and trying to guess what he's going to do and what I would do. And so that I love the reactive or the challenging dogs. That's really what I like to do. And it's just all from paying attention. I've been paying attention my whole life. So anyway, enough on that. You can tell I love talking about dogs, especially like reactivity stuff. So enough of that. Hi, Julie. Thanks for tuning in. So somebody asked me, what is Jack's management plan? Because Jack is this 8-month-old Catahoula who he has just shown signs of growl. He's super insecure. He's a lot better than he was 2 weeks ago. If you just joining in, he went home today and had an amazing session downtown with his owner, one of his owners, because he comes from a family of 2 adults, 6 kids, and a small dog. Super busy. But anyway, he was starting to just, or not starting, he had been for months. I met them in December and I couldn't get them until now, but just growling at people, growling at dogs, resource guarding his food. He actually drew blood on their little dog, Maddie, a tiny little, like maybe 10, 12 pound dog, maybe 15 pound dog. So, excuse me. He needed, like, he's still young enough where he did like mouth somebody, but wasn't super serious about it, but that will escalate into seriousness. He's only 8 months old, and 18 months, 2 years, he'll be a different dog. So he's not just your happy-go-lucky, hyper-excited golden retriever or doodle or something. So to live in this household of super excitable kids and a bit of mayhem, super loving, caring, kind family, but just busy and kind of frenetic. You put a golden retriever in there, they're fine. Most of them anyway, they're fine. But Jack is just a little on edge. So I tried to explain to them, you just got to kennel him. If you can't, so this is the question. If Jack's management plan, what's it going to be? If they can't watch him or, be working with him for the first, I usually recommend 30 to 90 days, but for him, like 60 to 90 days of crate every night, no furniture, waiting for food, threshold. So if you follow any of my videos, it's that kind of stuff can go away once your dog is in a better state of mind with you, but it needs to stay in place for weeks and months. I mean, look, I can change it, and a lot of people can change it in a matter of, 5 to 10 days. It's a different dog. But for the dog to go back home into its environment where it came from, where it was already struggling, it needs longer time. Because if you can't spend 3 hours a day with your dog, you can only spend 30 minutes a day with your dog. It's going to take you a month instead of a week, if that makes sense. Probably longer. So what they need to do is either they need to work with them every day, practice some of the stuff that we've been doing with e-collar, so he understands their tone, that they have followed through, that they're following, what the rules that he's learned. So now he has to make sure he's following them, because there's consequences if he doesn't. So that's the first bit, is practicing every day, 5-10 minutes a day, some of these, what do you call them? Like back and forths or drills or, whatever you want to call it, of place to down, to come, to heel, just a little bit. And if he's not being worked with one-on-one with somebody, it could be a kid, it could be an adult, then he should be monitored. Like if there's kids playing and mayhem going on, the parent needs to be there as well, not just the kids. Because in the past, the kids would wrestle with him. I'd walk into their house and the dog was just all over the place, jumping up on things, eating trash, right in front of you out of the trash can, just things like that. He needs to be watched. And so he can have a little free roaming, but he has to be like watching him. So, and you're holding the e-collar and he goes to the trash and he he sticks his mouth toward it and he decides to leave, and so you don't do anything. But then he sticks his mouth toward the trash and he actually opens and you give it a buzz, at a high number. And he's like, I'm never doing that again. If you go high enough, he won't do it again. So that's the other part of what they need to do. And if they're not working with them, like I said, the first thing, second thing is just, managing the situation, watching what's happening, then he needs to be in his kennel. And I told the owners, I said, put the kennel in the middle of the mayhem so Jack can learn to exist in the mayhem, but not actively participating in it. And he's going to be all antsy and excited. And, I said, don't let him whine, tap the e-collar, whatever. But he, if he's in a down doing this, that's probably what he's going to be doing, listening to the craziness and the fun, and he's missing out. There's a saying, FOMO, fear of missing out. He's got it big time in there. If he's doing that, eventually over time, because he has this kennel around him, he can't get out. He's just gonna, it might take hours, it might take days, it might take a couple weeks where he's just used to being around the mayhem, and he might actually take a nap. Amazing. That would be amazing. And they didn't have to do anything because of the crate. The crate is an amazing tool. It's structure for when you're not there to provide the structure. So I told them to do that. And eventually, and same thing outside in the yard, put the kennel outside in the middle of the grassy yard and let the kids run and jump and play. And he can go crazy, because if they're not going to be able to watch him, better than keeping him in the house locked up, like that's not what he needs. So if they don't have the time to be with him and watch him outside, then put the kennel outside so he can't self-reward. He's in the kennel. Not even tying him back at that point. Just put him in the kennel so he can't self-reward. And if a dog is self-rewarded 50 times, you need to make sure they don't self-reward 100 times. And self-rewarding is actually, let's say you have your dog on a bed and somebody's coming into your house or knocking at your door, and they knock, and as soon as your dog's like hanging out on place, good job. And then as soon as you open the door and you say, hi, the dog usually busts a move and comes over to the door, because you've let your guard down for a half a second and the dog breaks place and he's self-rewarded. So that's what I mean by self-rewarding. So if Jack is in his kennel, he can't self-reward. He can't run to the trampoline. He can't run to the front door. He can't do all these things. And over time, it's just going to calm him down, being in the mayhem, but not joining into the mayhem. And then over time after that, they just need to make sure that they can make him out, anything he might be playing with, or go to place, so they can send him away. When they're done, they can send him away. So that's Jack's management plan. It's kind of lengthy. I think they'll be fine. They'll be great. And the reason why I want this to be so controlled is because he has this tendency to growl, which will lead to a bite down the road. So they need to really get a good grip on being the leader of Jack. And he can't just free roam and be crazy all the time, because that excited state of arousal, which is just fun, will lead to an excited state of biting somebody. So they want to keep that in check. And there's one other thought I've had about the crate, and that's the crate is like this external structure. It's an external structure. And right now, Jack is to a place where he's got some internal structures happening. He has some really good obedience skills. He's understanding these commands and what the e-collar means, and he's got these boundaries. So he has this internal structure too, but it's not as refined. So you have this outside crate, and eventually that can go away as these inside structures become stronger and more in place. Does that make sense? I kind of like that thought. I think it makes sense to me. All right, enough of that one. So let's see. Somebody asked me, I feel like I might have answered this last week, but what if your dog barks louder what if my dog barks louder when I bang on the crate, trying to interrupt him from his anxious barking in the crate? And that was from a YouTube subscriber. And I think I did answer it last week, but you could get a bark collar, or you could do what I did last, it was with Jack. So 2 weeks ago, you can go to my Facebook and look and scroll through that. So 2 weeks ago from today, I don't even know what the date is. It's the 13th. So somewhere around the beginning of the month or before. Go to Jack's first or second day of his board and train, and he's in the kennel, and he's whining. He's not crazy separation anxiety, but he's whining and making this noise. And I put the e-collar on him first time, and I just started turning it from 1, 2, 3 until I noticed he noticed it, kind of like a fly buzzing in his ear or something, just like an annoyance. And once I noticed him noticing it, I didn't say anything. And then I just sat near him or kind of away from him, but could see him. And he'd start to stand up and whine. And I would just tap, tap, tap. So he was getting this low level stimulation that was making him kind of go like this. And so he wasn't whining anymore. And then he just curled up and lied down. And then I stopped tapping it. And then he'd lay there for a second and look around. And then he might start up again and get up. And then I'd tap, tap, not saying anything, tap. It's just this kind of stimulation on his neck, kind of annoying, not high, not making him whine. Just, what is this? Like a mosquito. There's something in my ear. And then he'd lay back down and it stopped. And a few minutes of that, less than 10 minutes, he was over it. I think it was less than 10 minutes, but he was over it. And that's all it took. Now, when you have a dog that's already struggling with a separation anxiety, it's going to take longer. You might have to go higher, but you don't have to say anything. So this person asked, banging on the crate makes their dog bark more. I would invest either in a bark collar if you're not there, or again, I'm going back to, you get what you pay for. Hi, Carrie. You get what you pay for. So get a good collar. E-collar Technologies, ET300, or get a Dogtra collar. They're amazing, amazing tools. And so I prefer that over a bark collar, though I do have a bark collar for when my dog is home by himself. I don't want him to bark, which he doesn't really use that often. But he's a tricky one. He has a startle bark. He's a whole other thing. Well, maybe I'll talk about that next week. So that's what I would do. If banging the crate is just making him bark more, try something else. Invest in an e-collar. Just do it. It's going to be worth your time and energy. And if you're dealing with a lot of like sleepless nights, it's going to be really worth it. And don't get one for $80. Get one that's at least 175 to 200 bucks. Let's see. A couple more questions. This was from somebody that had watched the Izzy and Jack video when they were off leash a couple days ago. And Izzy is this big German Shepherd dog mix. And we were off leash, running around, new trail, new people. And she saw some people approaching, and she went up and did a little play bow, but crouch. It wasn't a play bow. Her butt wasn't up. It was all four paws and hunched and staring. More of a play. But I've seen her do that with play with dogs that, especially Jack, poor Izzy, Jack's gone home. They're really well matched. But anyway, I've seen her do that, and she's a really sweet, sweet girl, but she's like 100-pound dog, and it's not okay. So basically the question was, is that okay for my dog to do? No. If your dog is with other dogs that he knows or she knows really well and they're playing, that's fine. That's totally fine. But if there's one dog in that group they don't know, or that dog doesn't know your dog, or if you're just out and about, knock that off, because that can create a dog that can scare another dog, and you can get a dog fight from it. She's down and then she's going to go for it. So you don't want that. So discourage your dog from doing that, whether it's with, hey, nope, kind of a loud thing, or recall them back, or if you have an e-collar, use a tap. My dog used to do that, and I don't say anything. I just tap, and his whole demeanor switches. He goes from like this tap, and you just see his tail, everything kind of just de-escalates. So that's a good one for sure. Don't let your dog crouch, especially to strange dogs. Again, if they're playing with dogs they know, it's fine. But if there's one dog in there that's unfamiliar, don't let it happen. And then my last question is, hang on one second. Okay, my last question. Okay, wait. Trying to figure out all these things. How to do this. All right. Is about marking. Somebody asked me if it's okay, not if it's okay, but they were just talking about their female dog scratching the ground. And that's marking. So when your female dog either pees or poops and then does this, with their back feet, they are marking. And marking is, I'm just going to say it's more of a dominant behavior. whatever that means really, but it's just not something you want them to do. You want them to go potty and be done and then go into heel or go play, but they don't need to go around sniffing and marking their territory. That's just not necessary. I don't let my male Tioga do it. I didn't let my other dogs do it. It's just not necessary. So keep your dogs from marking. They don't need to do it. You know, again, say nope, clap your hands, tap them. It's just not necessary. So females mark in a different way. Actually, females sometimes will try to go lift their leg. I'll poke them and say nope, and eventually they just stop doing it. They should know how to go potty and then be done with potting and not just spread their pee and their urine all over the town or their block. So anyway, I think I'm going to sign out. I'm so glad you guys all joined me. It's been fun. And next week I'm here. The next week we're going to be on a little vacation for spring break. So I look forward to next Tuesday. Probably going to do another Tuesday Q&A. So spread the word, tell your friends, put a comment in the comment box if you want an answer to one of your questions. And I hope to see you guys next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Thanks for joining in. Have a great evening. Bye.